Well, good evening, everyone. Well, it's evening here at Lichterdannen, and welcome to Nature Echoes. It's Sunday, the 28th of May, 2023. Beautiful day it's been here. I hope it has been with you. Lovely and sunny, just right temperature for me. I like it. It's been 17 degrees, which I think is about 63 degrees, which a lot of you say, oh, that's cold, but I love that here. And it was lovely yesterday. We're going through quite a summery, sunny time now. Anyway, wherever you're watching from, I am later than usual because this is for summertime. Decided to make it a lot later, and then I'll go back to probably 7 p.m. From end of August, and then when we're in the winter, when the daylights are short, I'll probably go back to the old 5 p.m. time. But thank you for joining. This is our weekly time. I'm going to be echoing various news stories and poetry and art, and this is all connected to nature folklore, surprisingly, and our precious water, the holy wells, the woodlands, the hedges, the wildlife. So hail, hail, how, pronouncing it all wrong, but a holy good health and wholesome time for you all. And through this edition, I'm going to be focusing on the traditions of bees talking. Let's get some pictures up here. That's the cover picture, but here's the listing. Talking to the bees, it's telling the bees, actually. Also, sleeping with the kayak, that's a mystery one for you, I bet. And the joys of community woodland. And I've got one or two other things as well. Now, the other things, it's funny, I was thinking I was doing a little bit on the folklore, funnily enough, of artificial intelligence. I think I've got enough going. I'm going to have an interesting piece on the black sheep that are the artists amongst you, and also a bit of information about afternoon tea with Claire Roach, and the latest with the Journaling Nature Folklore Course and other news of nature folklore. And a lovely, interesting piece to finish off with. Sometimes it takes a cat, and I know there's a lot of cat lovers amongst you. So, the Nature Echoes Live, as usual, and the growing Nature Folklore video articles, photo library, and the Journaling Nature Folklore course modules, they're all brought to you due to the support of our kind subscribers. There's a link. I always get this wrong. There we go. I'll get that. Let's try this arm. Yeah, that's the one. That's the link there. You can subscribe there. And there's a free tier and free subscription if you go there. And if you're on the free subscription, you get at least 40 very informative nature folklore articles throughout the year. And if you upgrade to become a support subscriber, that includes my Journaling Nature Folklore course. That gives you 20 course modules a year. You can actually join at any time because Journaling Nature Folklore, it's a revolving course. It's not a linear one. And so you can join any time, and each year when I've gone around the cycle, there'll be the latest update. So the modules will actually grow from the year before. And I'm going to try and get started on the 4 seasonal online live workshops as well. The cost is €5 a month or whatever it is in your currency, but you can go for a 50% discount, which is only €30 a year, or the equivalent in your currency. So you save half if you go for that, and it helps me out with the costs and so forth. So thank you, support subscribers, because your support is why I'm able to be here and support your advertising. Someone is, there's a lot of people messaging me direct. Excuse me if I message, look at this. Everybody's giving messages all at once related to the show. Sometimes, oh no, right, there we go, nothing too emergency. I always do this because some people message me if you're not hearing me or seeing me, so that's why I jump on it when I shouldn't be. Right. Okay, nothing too urgent there. So with everything, the messages and the show survival pledge all sorted, let's see. I see some lovely early birds, and it's lovely to see someone from YouTube because I never got around to promoting the YouTube outlets this time. So it's Joe there, Druid here from Knoxville, Tennessee. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Wonderful, Matt. And we got Mike Wolf here from Wolf Castle Gardens. I forget what that is, but lovely to have you here. Of course, a change of time, I'm going to get a different audience, which is fabulous. And any audience on in the summer like this, I'm really appreciated. So thank you, those that are tuning in live. I know a lot of you will be listening to the archive later. Anyway, talking with bees is the first sort of echo, the first thing I'm going to be echoing with you. And I'm going to line up some pictures with this because I haven't numbered my pictures properly. Let's give you a bit of a scene from that to show what we're talking about, because the telling of bees is a phrase of a tradition that seems to go back to medieval times or earlier, and it's still practiced by some people in England. Was a practice right through at least Europe, and also including beekeepers in Ireland as well. Now, the tradition is the beekeepers have a duty to tell the bees of any news. And this is my background screen. Let's bring this to the front. This would be a great idea, wouldn't it? There you go. No, it's not coming to the front. There we go. The tradition that beekeepers, as they have a duty, they tell the bees of any news that needs to be told. And usually these are of births, baptisms, engagements, weddings, anniversaries, deaths. And through traditions, they also claim that the Sidhe, the Fae, the fairies, whatever you call them, they're always all-knowing. And that's what we learn from the traditions. But this telling the bees tradition seems to be important, seems to be a very important human duty to keep the bees informed, to pass on to the other world. Another picture of that, another lovely old ancient one of that. I noticed the cloth that lad's putting there. I'm going to be talking about that in a minute. I might come back to that picture. But failing to tell the bees what's going on, it'd be said the bees would say, well, you don't care. And they'd stop producing the honey, or they'd even leave the hive. And sometimes they would instantly die. And even during the recent passing, it doesn't matter what you feel of the royal family, this is something that did happen. During the passing of the UK's Queen Elizabeth II, it was noted that royal beekeepers in the royal houses, wherever they are, Windsor, Buckingham Palace, Sandringham, they all went up to the beehives to inform the bees that the bees were dead, and they begged for the bees to stay. Just because she was dead, please don't move on, because King Charles would look after them very well. But the bees at all weddings and funerals, do I have anything of this? This is interesting. No, I don't. This might be a picture of something. I didn't number my pictures very well, so anyway, I'll get back to myself. But at weddings and funerals, what was donated was a piece of wedding cake or the funeral food, and that was brought to the bees as well, so to include them as well. And then when the bees were informed of marriage or a passing, after funerals, often a woman dressed in black would approach the hives, and rather than tell the bees, because obviously bees are not they don't know multiple languages, and the woman in black would just stand there and hum a mournful drone as a way of communicating to the bees that there's been a funeral. And if a man approached the beehives instead of a woman, the tradition there is for the man to actually carry a key, an important key, and would knock on the hives, and that would announce the passing. It would actually whilst knocking, the key would announce the names of those that are passing, but the knocking is said to inform the bees that there has been a passing. And sometimes the hives may be rotated to face the funeral procession themselves. And this is, I'll bring back that picture again, because this is what this lad's doing. It looks like he's actually placing a mourning cloth over the bees there, because due to a funeral. One of the traditions, although there's a Brittany tradition that's connected to that as well. Now, go away. That's the next story. And at weddings, the happiness was shared with the bees, because the bride and groom would come up to the beehives as well before they go off on whatever they're going to be doing. There was a German custom for couples to visit the beehives, and very strong in Germany, and as well as being happy, they're actually there to announce their new union with the bees. Now, in the former Pickland, Scotland, The bees were actually used to be invited to the wedding. When I say Picton, Scotland, I'm talking about Moray, Aberdeenshire, where's Dundee? That Fife. And so, but how that worked, I don't know. I'm going to have to find out when I visit my family there. But in Brittany, that's what I was saying. The beehives were covered with a scarlet-covered cloth at the time of a wedding. So this lad, it might not be a funeral. He might actually be building that over because a wedding is about to take place, and being a sepia photograph, we can't tell if that is a scarlet-covered cloth. So use your imagination on that one. I know that part of this tradition, it might sound a bit silly, but I do believe that any tradition that involves paying attention and giving respect to the bees is very essential, if only to remind us how survival of the bees is very connected to us, our lives, also the health of their swarms as well, not just the individual bees. It's respect for the swarms and for the queens, and how that is so important, that we need to be aware of that connection and don't lose that respect. Anyway, it's about as much as I can say for now, because I've got other things to talk about. Let's see what you're talking about. The Scarlet Shed here. Good evening, John Moore from sunny Cornwall. Haven't skipped the live today. Definitely watch it over the weekend. Interested to find out more, as you used to keep bees a few years ago. Such an amazing hobby, and now encourage them into my patch. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And then Meg is saying here, 6 species of bee now frequenting our garden near Roscommon. Lovely. And then we've got someone here. S. Lee's all ears. Thank you for joining us with your ears, hitting the thumbs up. Very kind of you. That gives me a lot of encouragement as well. Fabulous. So we're on to the next echo, and that one, and I kept flashing up that picture, which is part of it. I thought this was fascinating because many of us have heard the folklore and myth tales of sleeping with the kayak, or some people say cailleach. I spent a long time living in the Inner Hebrides, and there they say kayak. And in the Outer Hebrides, it seems to be more the cailleach, sorry. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The hag, the wise old woman who lives in the hills, the mountains, or within the land. And the stories tell of, there are stories, and I tell it sometimes on the nature folklore, of a man of stamina, or even a man who's lost his stamina and is offered to return it. He ends up being invited by the cailleach, sometimes called the Morrigan in this story, and invited to sleep with her to get his stamina back, or to share his stamina. The great conception, often told as that time, is a midwinter story for the transition from one cycle into the next, because all the debris has been scooped up and it's now being kind of recycled for the new life coming the involved onwards. You know the story anyway. But what about the tradition of there's another tradition, and this is what I'm seeping into, where there's a rewording of sleeping in the kayak, with the kayak, to sleeping in the kayak. I got this information. This is an echo of a posting by the filmmaker Michael Fortune. He spent many of his recent years visiting daycare centres and nursing homes. It started off in Wexford and Waterford, and then he spread out. And he's been doing video recordings of old folk tales that have been shared with him by some of the residents, the senior residents within these daycare centres and nursing homes. Wonderful collection he's got. It's a folklore.ie. Huge collection of videos of his interviews and the people sharing their stories. Absolutely beautiful resource. And as people in Ireland are probably very aware, we have an excellent, wonderful month-long festival every year that's called Biltona. And that'll confuse quite a few of you because that's the sort of name that tends to get used on our May Day, or at the cross-quarter time, or during the full moon time, the flower moon, planting moon, milking moon, any of those moon times, or even when the hawthorn comes out, when it blooms, when the blossoms come out. So all of those things we tend to relate to this building. But this is the whole month of May. The festival was on right through, and it's a celebration of creativity from senior people, and especially senior women that are beyond childbearing age. Now, through this month, Michael Fortune, he was actually sponsored to go way out of his realm. He lives in Wexford, but County Mayo. They invited him, sponsored him to come to Mayo and visit the Mayo daycare centres around the county and film some storytelling amongst their people. And especially in Castlebar and Ballina, he found that a common feature in their stories was telling of the Cailleach. But what they were telling was not of the hill of the resident hag of winter that handed over to breeder, breege in spring, but the Cailleach was the name of a bed. And now this is the bed by the hearth in cottages, the old vernacular cottages in Ireland, also in Scotland too. And many of us know these as the settle bed. And I'll give you the cover. What I had here, here's the cover of Michael's. And there we go. That's the Cailleach. See that in the corner there? Simple bed with curtains. And that's where the oldest woman in the house slept. And the reason that we talk about the women is the women tend to outlive the men. Not so much now, but it used to be the case. Much of my life was on the Hebrides, and most of the men were dead by the time they were 60. They either smoked too much, drank too much, and they really liked this sticky buns. So they had serious diabetes and all that carry on. So they only lived to about 50. But their women on the cross there, they'd live to about 90, even on to 100. So it's often you're stuck with the women there. And they would sleep there by the hearth. And that one's the one they were referring to in Mayo. The one there. That one's with, kind of moving forward a bit. That's with the curtains there. And the parents would sleep in the room behind, which was usually the bigger one on the other side of the hearth. And the children often slept up in the attic. The other bedroom was often reserved as a place for animals for some reason. It might be calving a sick animal. And the heat from the animal would go up through into the attic and keep the children warm. But these settle beds, different designs. As I say, that's a simple one with a curtain. There we go. That's a more common one. That one there. They were like presses, and you pull the bed out from the press, or you could sit on them during the day. And some of them actually were big cabinets. They were like big closet wardrobes that someone could climb in and close the doors. I haven't got any pictures of those ones. But in England and Wales, now there we go. There's one there. That's I'm not sure if that one can be closed, but that's I think that turns into a seat in the day. But this is what you get in the common. This is in a museum, obviously. But that's very much the sort of English and Wales version where you pull it down from the wall. Now, an interesting thing that Michael discovered is what most of the senior women of Mayo he spoke to. He showed them the settle beds. He talked to them. They'd never heard of the word. They'd never seen the design. It was foreign, which was quite strange because you go down into his homeland in Wexford, even the adjoining counties, Waterford, even Cork. They wouldn't know what you're talking about if you're talking about the beds of Cailleach. So it just shows there is still those differences between the regions. I found that fascinating because with now we have the motorways and we have the internet and so forth, there isn't very much the local differences anymore. Even as I was saying, like Cailleach, Cork, different ways of pronouncing, that's all disappearing because we have this interconnection that just wasn't around. But in this case, with these Cailleach beds and settle beds, still having those differences that the other end of the countries haven't heard of. Fascinating that still exists to me anyway. And it's surprising how Cailleach, that many of us say, we use the Cailleach name to describe a hag. And but here we've got changes to describe where the hag or the elder sleeps. And that makes a lot more sense to me of the Cailleach word, because many folklorists, they translate out the Cailleach as being the veiled one. And that's really trying to translate old Irish, old Gaelic, old Gaelic, Gael into a kind of Latinized English thing. So it comes out as veiled one. And some people even say that's really talking about the origins of nuns wearing veils. I don't really take in any of that myself. But I always think the veil part is really not necessarily a cloth veil, but as being closer to the divine, closer to the other side, closer to the other world, whatever we call it, because a senior person is obviously a lot closer to crossing over that veil than they are to their time of birth. So when we sleep, it seems, when we go to sleep, with the dreams we have, some of the experiences we have, I feel that it feels like crossing the veil to recharge. When we do have a good sleep and we have pleasant dreams, we wake up, we do feel recharged. So that's where I feel the veil is more appropriate. And of course, I'm a senior now. And the one thing I notice is I sleep a lot more than I did as a young man. And so to me, that makes sense. I'm getting closer to that veil. So the sleeping area of a senior being called a kayak with all that in mind, that makes a lot of sense to me. Anyway, let's see what comments you've got of that one. Who's here? Rebecca here from Amsterdam. I got here. Jane here from Amsterdam. She says, wonderful. And there we go. And Mike says, he used to have, let's see, fold outs into full double bed. It was an old Danish style. Yeah, I've seen those. They're wonderful. I've not been in a cottage with one of those. I did have a cottage in Somerset that had the pull down one. Yeah, that was a double bed too. And it was a full double bed. I think the illustration in the museum there was a double bed. So yeah, that seems to be, it doesn't surprise me that would come over, that idea, even coming over with the Danes, coming over with the Saxons. I don't think that's a modern carpentry idea. I think that was very much a space idea that probably goes back hundreds of years. Anyway, any other comments on that before I rush on? I've already been on for 22 minutes. Right, let's see what we got. This is a story I've been holding back for a few weeks. Let's see if there's any pictures I've forgotten to show you on the settled beds. No, there isn't. Right. It's about a community woodland. It's the joys of community woodland. Been trying to get this in on Nature Echoes for weeks. Decided I'm going to go ahead and put it in today, even though I'm getting near the end. I'm going to be on for another 10 minutes or so anyway. But community woodlands, it's something I talk about on Nature Echoes and Nature Folklore from time to time, and I tend to brush over it. But I believe community woodlands is the best recipe for woodland management. And I think I've told the story of me becoming involved in campaigning for forest management while I was in Scotland, because there was, it was from my experiences as a very young lad working for this horrible company, Fountain Forestry. I'm not going to go into the full story of it, but they really ripped off the crofters, and it was a tax dodge. And you'll be amazed how many people, even some Irish people, were in on a tax dodge on that. Not going to go into that today, but we were campaigning to have this corporate managed forestry that the crofters have been swindled out of, and to bring it back into local management. And actually, I'm not going to go into the political story of this because it will take a long time, but the legislation actually went through when Blair was actually the Prime Minister of Labour. You've heard some nasty things about Blair, but before he got into that crap, he actually did some wonderful things for Scotland, and this is one of the agreements. He wanted the Scottish vote to get himself in a big majority, and said, if I get your vote, what would you like me to do? And this is one of the things he did. He actually brought in legislation. It went right through, and what it did, that if there was land up for sale, forestry land up for sale, and there was some Scottish corps in position, they got the first dibs. Doesn't matter what the private foresters offered, the Scottish corps got the first dibs for being the preferred buyers of that land. Now, if private forestry ever went up for sale. Now, this suited Scotland perfectly because Scotland, luckily, I don't know how they did it, but they are amazingly embedded into the whole culture of cooperatives. And forming secure, well-functioning corps too. And whilst I was living there, which was for many years, raising a family, my own family had property there. So I had quite a strong connection. And I saw this happening with food co-ops, farming supplies, co-ops for food, for getting bulk food and spreading it out. Public transport co-ops for where the national bus companies weren't going. So there were little small route co-ops. There was that. Also, I was involved with a shared radio where we found a VHF signal. So we had a shared radio co-op, and later on there was a TV signal sharing co-op before there was satellite TV. And since I've left Scotland, there's been internet service co-ops, pub buying co-ops, and pub sharing co-ops, and local sustainable energy. It's amazing, when you got big hydroelectric systems, they're ugly, they're nasty, but the little community ones are fantastic. They blend into the landscape, don't do any harm, and they provide the natural local energy. Fantastic system. Also, music education went into co-op. The music production and distribution of music, that went into a co-op format in some places. Beautiful stuff. There's I can't remember, in Tobermory, north of the Isle of Mull, there's a very good one there. I can't remember its name. But the place I lived on the Isle of Mull, it was a former Forestry Commission headquarters. I think I've got a picture of that, if I can share that. This is it here. This is where a lovely place. I shared this. We didn't have it all. It was shared with someone else. And that's the rear end. Isn't that pretty? That's Turoran. Absolutely fabulous. So sometimes I really miss that. But that was formerly Forestry Commission headquarters. And Forestry Commission, to non-UK people, is still the nationalised forestry management company in the UK. It's much more nationalised than Quilshire is in Ireland. And I don't think they're doing the dirties. I hope not. Anyway, the Forestry Commission, they still own the forestry land around the HQ. You can see some of it here, if I bring the pictures on again. No, that's the wrong one. There we go. That's the forestry behind there. They still own. And there we go. I think you can see the mass of it. That's Loch Screeden on the right. And there's Benmore, lovely mountain to climb up in the distance there. But that was the scope of the forestry. Most of that was Forestry Commission. Some of that was private. And beside that, as I say, there was some forestry land that had already been sold off. In the distance, those trees in the distance, that was absent landlord, private sale. Without, and around between 2010 and 2012, it was not only Ireland, or 2012 was when Ireland tried to sell off public forestry. UK got into it in about 2010. Nasty on both sides of the water there. But in both countries, because there was so much protest in both countries, the idea of selling off public forestry was taken off the table due to the protest, the extent of the protest. And of course, what do they do when the government takes things off of the table? It goes under the table. So there was still trading going on under the table. And when the people on the south of the Isle of Mull heard the public forestry around Turoran was about to be sold, the island residences, they're like bees. They instantly formed a co-op, and they tested that cooperative woodland legislation. I don't know if it'd been used before. It went into, the legislation went into law about 20 years before they acted on it. And they won. They won very easily to get it. They raised the money from cooperative members and from member subscriptions, and there was some other help. I can't remember exactly what. But today, a few years later, Turoran Community Forest is amazingly established. And there's some lovely pictures there. The children pointed to the sign, a play area there, some of the craft work they do. Beautiful. It's a very, it's a very sustainable learning, leisure and viable business centre. And I'm personally thrilled about it after living a while among that forest myself. And then being away for it, it was in Caithness when I was working on it, getting involved in the cooperative forestry campaign. And then Turoran, where I was living in the forestry HQ, I ended up being the first probably to use that legislation 30 years, 20 years later, and made it a success. So today, the plantation of trees, what have I got here? They're being filled, and they've built up. They've got the community sawmills going there. It's doing very well. It sells. It's mainly larch at the moment because they're taking down the plantations, and that's going to be replaced with native woodland as they take it down. But it's not going to go to waste. So they've got the sawmills going, and they're selling construction wood, fencing wood, and it's mainly from the larch wood. But there is also courses for people to come to the sawmills and being taught how to make their own furniture. And they come for the workshops, come there, and they learn how to make furniture. Within a few short hours, they make something, and it's put together with traditional joints. No brackets, no nails, no screws. It could be a stool like that, could be a small table. And so that's something that they do. So that's one of the other active things that, another one, let's see. They've shown how to make charcoal there. They've got the charcoal going. And these are things you won't get from a cooperative wood. This is community woodland and what it does and what happens. Absolutely fabulous. And that lad there, what's he doing? As I say, native trees, the felling's been done, the larch and whatever they had. It's come down, clearing that, and it's going to be native trees, and they're going to go into coppicing as well. It's going to be coppicing management. What's happened in some of the woodland areas and some of the areas that were already planted, eagles are coming back, pine martens, polecats, which is like a red pine marten, they're all returning. And also most of the island schools, they're regularly visiting and doing forest school. It's very much an important part of their education because the island is full of forests, and it's something they need to know to stop them leaving the island. The fishing is not so grand these days, so the forest school is very important, and the children make those furniture items as well. And not only are they looking after the forest, I'll give you the logo here. That's it. That's the logo, Toronto Community Forest. And the island schools have also got community gardens. And those community gardens, sorry, I don't have any pictures of them, but those community gardens not only grow food, they're also the nurseries for creating the saplings of trees needed when they're converting over to the native woodlands. But they are allowing native woodlands to naturally form because there's going to be birch in the wind. They do have some jays there, and they do have squirrels, and they will be burying beech seeds. They'll be burying acorns. So a lot of trees are going to come up as the way that nature designs it. It's really things like oak. They'll bring in stuff like that later because oak did grow in that area once upon a time. What have I got here? Something I wanted here. Right, yeah. As I say, hiking trails. They got some hiking trails started up and going through it. They're very relaxing, as well as the hiking trails. There's lovely resting stops, kind of copses that adults, even the children or families, they can have their picnics, they can rest and relax. All of that is there as well. And there's beautiful waterfalls in that area, and very relaxing to go. I think they might show a picnic spot near there. But anyway, that was going. When I lived there, our actual mains water came from a waterfall like that with pipes up it. The pressure was excellent, by the way. Anyway, the scenery, as I say, lovely waterfalls. Do I have some? Oh, look at that one. That is that's within the forest there as well. And there's also a mountain bike trail. Oh, yeah, that's what the children made, those with the wicker there. There's that's cherry. I love that fallen tree. That's cherry blossom. That was right by where I used to live. I remember seeing the cherry blossom there as well. So there we go. They're building a mountain bike trail there that's being constructed for the over-energetic people in the community. And so all this owned and run and used by the community, decisions made on site by the community. There's no absent corporation spreadsheet heads running the show. The way I show that, if only the whole Earth's land could be managed that way. It provides everything sustainable, and it's also very wholesome for everybody involved. It's the right education we need. But sadly, when I've spoken of cooperative concepts whilst living in Ireland, the response hasn't been very good so far. I get responses, oh, I'm too busy to be organising or be part of that. I couldn't afford to be part of it. Well, that takes a monthly subscription. No, I can't do that. Anyway, putting your money into something like that is far too risky. It's always, no, you can't do that. But in Scotland, because of the culture, it seems very much almost like what the Amish do. You know, when the Amish, something needs to be done, whatever the Amish are doing, it's down tools, and you get together with the neighbours, help with whatever's going on, and the result is that everyone profits from it much more than whatever you were doing individually. And this, to me, I firmly believe in cooperatives and cooperative community living, and I hope it comes here as a way of life as well. Let's see what your comments are. I'm going on a bit here. Let's see. No more extra comments at the moment. Yeah, there's still some of you here, so that's great. I didn't put you off with that one. As I was going to talk about a relationship between AI and folklore, but I'm going to put that off because I've been on for 36 minutes. I'll leave that till next week. But there's a lovely piece that I'd like to echo that was put on Facebook, which is a short thing. And I thank Donna Johnson for posting this, because it would have followed up very well with what I was going to talk about with the AI. Because my concern, and this is one of the reasons I do the Journaling Nature Folklore course, is I get the feeling what's coming up is those who don't follow the AI, and it's not really artificial intelligence. I'm not going to go into that. But anyway, AI manipulated lifestyles, people who don't follow that, it's almost like the COVID thing. You're regarded as being the black sheep of the human race. Now, there's a wonderful author from Devon in England, Toko Turner, and she grew up within a Sufi community. I haven't got any pictures of her. I didn't have time to get them up. But her authoring work today blends mystical tradition of Sufism, and she's applied a Jungian approach to dream work. So she puts that all together. And she speaks a lot with poetry, and she aims to write about sustaining integrity, having strong integrity with our heart, our passion, and our voice, and what this all means to belong to ourselves. And this is an excerpt. Donna Johnson, she used to watch here often. She now watches the archive more often. But this is an excerpt from her work that she posted. I'll bring up the picture. I think there's a picture I can show you of this. Yeah, I did have a picture. No, it never came up. Yeah, I think I will bring up the picture. I can bring it up another way. Give me a second here. I'll bring the photo up by another means. It should be here. No, it doesn't. Oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong one. Let's try another one again. Sorry, my continuity is falling apart with, so I apologize for that. But I think I might find the picture and get it up for you. I'd love to show you the cover picture if I can. Yeah. Oh, no, that's not. Here it is. This is the cover picture. So I'll bring this up for you. Just take a second for that. And while I read this thing up, there we go. I can bring this up for you. Whoops. Upsetting them. There we go. That's through plan B. Anyway, the black sheep are the artists, the visionaries, and the healers of our culture, because they are the ones willing to call into question those places which feel stale, obsolete, or without integrity. The black sheep stirs up the good kind of trouble. Her very life is a confrontation with all that has been assumed as tradition. Her being different serves to bring the family or group to consciousness where it has been living too long in the dark. She is the wayward one in the flock. Her life's destiny is to stand apart. But paradoxically, it's only when she honors that apartness that she finally fits in. The world needs your rebellion and the true song of your exile. In what has been banned from your life, you find a medicine to heal all that has been kept from the world. We must find the place within where things that have been muted and give that a voice. Until those things are spoken, no truth can find its way forward. The world needs your unbelonging. It needs your disagreements. It needs your exclusion, your ache to tear the false constructions down to find the world behind this one. And so that was, I forget the author's name now. Let's see if I can get back to that. Toko Pat Turner from Devon. And I'm going to see if I can get a link. I'm trying to get back to my pictures here. Hello. Now, I forgot. I'm on a different system. Right. Sorry, I was on a different photograph system there. Right. Any more comments whilst I go? Let's go back to the comments on this. Whilst I was... no more comments here at the moment. No. Right. All right. Now, I'll get a couple more little echoes for you. Coming up next Sunday, I'll still be doing the broadcast late, but coming up next Sunday, this is the last time I can tell you this on live anyway. Afternoon tea with Claire Roach is coming up next Sunday, and it's a good one. Talking of voices, I invite you to make it to your afternoon with Claire Roach. Let's get her. I think I've got a picture handy here. That's tells you all about it there. It's next Sunday, 4th of June, and that's the holiday. It's at 3 p.m. at her Woodford House concert room. That's kind of the empty room with our harps in. I haven't actually got a decent photo of the audience that gets in there. We have fantastic. Her dues there, absolutely incredible. And it looks like it's going to be a warm, sunny day. That Sunday, so much of it may be enjoyed outside. We're not sure if Claire will perform outside. She might do a set outside and a set inside. I bet that's what's going to happen. But the afternoon tea is bound to be outside, I'm sure. And you could order advance tickets through the brown paper tickets. I'll put the link in after the show for that, or just message me or message Claire Roach, and we'll get you in. I think there's only 25, it's less than 25 tickets left anyway. But Claire will perform a selection of songs and stories accompanied with the harps, maybe the piano there as well. And there's going to be a few sing-alongs as well as her enchanting originals. And you never know, there may be a duet between both of us, Claire and myself, something from Omer's Tale of the Trees. So it'd be lovely to meet some of you folks there next Sunday afternoon at Claire's in Woodford in Dublin, South Dublin, for the crack there. Right. Who we got? Anything else here? Nothing from... No other comments. Any questions? Anything for you to say? It'd be lovely to hear from you. As far as the journal course, the Journaling Nature Folklore course, I must apologize because Journaling Nature Folklore subscribers, I'm being late with the next module. It's been quite a week. It's a 3-part module this time. It keeps getting longer. I've got to get it out. But I'm sure you'll find it's worth the wait. I'll try to get this to you early next week. All I've got to do is sort out some photos. It's all written. It's almost ready to post. I need to get the appropriate photos put into it. And as far as the Nature Folklore articles, sorry, I don't have a new series starting this evening, or I didn't earlier. But again, I've got articles written. It's on about the next series. I'm going to start the Us and Trees series. Going to keep that going for a couple of weeks or so. And then I'll change over to the midsummer stuff as we get nearer the solstice in June. And some of the Us and Trees is already written. Same story as the journaling course. I need to sort out some photos to go with that. So apologies again for the delays in that. Right. All right. This is the last echo. I'm sure you'll enjoy this. This is a real fun thing. It's very short. But the thing about this, it really sometimes it takes a cat. It takes a cat to remind us about the most important things in life. So let's bring on the cat. There we go. Where is Cat? There you go. That's the background picture for this one. What's in the bag? Asked the little cat. It really looks heavy. Oh, lots of things, sighed the little girl. My fears, my worries, my hurts, and my mistakes. But the past has gone and tomorrow's a new day, replied the cat. It's time to put the bag down, leave it behind. I think that's just a beautiful reminder just to put the baggage down, put it down, leave it behind, and enjoy some of these days of sanctuary, especially with this lovely weather. We need those days of sanctuary to recharge from time to time. The author of that art and poem is Lizzie Jane. I'll try and get the address up later. Let's get the picture up for you again. It's all done by, her name's there, isn't it? At Lizzie Jane. That's the way to get to it. Art by Lizzie Jane. Do that on your social media. You'll probably find her. So that she's the author of that little bit of speech there and that picture. Lovely. Right. Anyone else around? Comments have gone quiet. Any questions? Any comments? Any more? Just to thank you for watching the Nature Echoes this evening. I still have a bit more to share, and if you enjoy what we share here live through the Nature Folklore channels, do consider subscribing. It'd be lovely if you can. I always get this wrong. That's the one. I able to rehearse this. Yeah, yeah, I do it that way. Through Nature Folklore. That's the Substack link anyway. Get the free subscription, and you'll get 40 informative Nature Folklore articles written. At least 40 written per year. They come in serious form. But if you upgrade to become a support subscriber, that includes my Journaling Nature Folklore course. You get included on that. And what you get additionally is the 20 course modules per year that you can join in any time because it's a revolving course, not a linear one. And you get the latest updates added onto the module from the year before. At the moment, they're sort of like 2 and 3 part. I wouldn't be surprised the modules will be 4 part, etc., as the years go on. And I'm trying to put on 4 seasonal online live workshops so you can join in. And I would love to have a gathering, make it where we actually meet each other as well somehow. Cost is €5 a month, or go for the 50% discount, which is €30 or the equivalent a year, half price. So thank you, support subscribers. It's why I'm still broadcasting, why I can pay my monthly subscriptions. And coming up on the next week on Nature Echoes, I'll give you a review. I'll be doing this from Woodford right after Claire's show. And I'll talk about that. I will talk about the folklore in relation to AI. Also, what we're talking about, holding on to that inspirational self, never lose it. So we'll talk about that a bit as well. A little bit about the oak tree. I'll keep that quiet as well for the time being. And anything else you'd like to say before I go? Thank you. I've enjoyed sharing this evening, sharing Nature Echoes with you. And if you're watching this as the replay, please keep posting your comments and questions because I do check from time to time and reply to what you've said and posted. Click the bell icon if you're on YouTube to remind you of the next Nature Echoes. So it leaves me to I wish you a wonderful, safe week full of inspiration, all those wonders and enchantments you get from wandering around the presence of the nature, the woodlands, the mysteries of nature, and all this sun at the moment. So until next Sunday evening, play well. I wish you the most fantastic week. And it's actually a holiday in Ireland next weekend. So thank you very much for joining me. Pleasure to be with you. Good night. Fantastic week. Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.